Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
5:07. It's O'Connor and Company on a Friday, 26th day of July. Thank you so much for tuning in and being part of this morning extravaganza. And you are a big part of it right where you are. So thank you for your participation. Coming up at 6:35, Tommy Pigott of the RNC. Talk about some new examples of election fraud down in Blacksburg, Virginia, as we've now got some local Democrats charged with violating election rules. I thought that never happened. 7:05, Derek Anderson, Republican running in Virginia 7. 7:35, Gregory Pemberton, he's the D.C. Police Union chairman, talk about the protests and vandalism and violence that happened this week. 8:05, Matt Bonesteel, Washington Post sports reporter, talk about the Olympics starting today in Paris. And then at 8:35, Brett Baer, wrap things up. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Gosh, Patrice, last time you were here, Joe Biden was still running for president.
I know. So much has happened in 1 week. My goodness.
Well, and I'm told that Kamala Harris has been a game changer and has excited everybody. And I just got to check in with you. I mean, are you with her now? Because suddenly, Kamala Harris, a woman of color, is about to break the glass ceiling. And I'm told by all my political superiors in this town that women like you identify with women like her, and so you're going to march in line and throw you're the way you're looking at me. I think maybe that's not. No.
I'm stopping short of rolling my eyes. I am not with her. I will never be with her. She does not represent me and millions of other women out there. And by the way, happy Friday, everybody.
Oh, thank you, Patrice. Yes, I shouldn't have jumped right into politics before we got a Friday out of you. Yeah, well, I mean, that is the assumption, that it doesn't matter what she stands for. It doesn't matter what she believes. This is identity politics at its best. And that's why we're making a big deal out of Obama endorsing her yet. Did anybody think Barack Obama was not going to endorse Kamala Harris? Why is this so earth-shattering?
Yeah.
But former President Obama has now officially endorsed Vice President Kamala as she was on Friday as the Democrat nominee. As usual, this is big breaking, earth-shattering. They stopped the presses on the mainstream media to tell everybody that this is just in. This, of course, adds to the machine rolling down the hill that can't be stopped, that Kamala Harris will be the nominee. Although last I checked, Barack Obama called for an open process at the convention to select the nominee. But little did he know, or maybe he always knew, and this is just something that has been scripted. The open process was over within 24 hours, and there will be no process at the convention.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, when President Obama said Joe Biden needs to step down from the ticket, he stopped short of endorsing Harris at the time. So, why did he wait a few days, which curiously was just enough time for this massive, well-coordinated effort to target every demographic, slice up every demographic and target them with unique messaging and get those people on board to seem like there's a lot of energy. You had 44,000 a call of 44,000 black women telling them, raise money, get on board with her. You had a call with thousands of Hispanic women telling them, get on board. These are the messaging points. The messaging points are filtering out everywhere. Larry, this makes me feel like the past couple of weeks has really just been a lot of dog and pony show around Joe Biden, whereas in the back of the room or behind closed doors, all of this was being well coordinated to set Harris up, which is why she was so quiet. Now she steps out as though she's just born right out of the womb. Yeah. She's fresh and ready to go.
Patrice, this entire thing is a well-orchestrated Hollywood script, complete with this Obama endorsement where they just happen to have a beautiful camera filming the entire phone call as very busy and energetic Kamala Harris is striding off the podium. She is handed a cell phone with an urgent call, and, this was all posted on Barack Obama's X account. Watch.
Kamala!
Hello. Hi.
Hey there.
Oh, hi, you're both together. Oh, it's good to hear you both.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh my goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
So there you go. The implication there is that they're going to be running together and campaigning together. Mm-hmm. You know, nothing says Michelle and I can't wait to do anything it takes to support you in this campaign. Nothing says that like a telephone call that gets recorded. You know, they couldn't figure out a way to get there and do this in person.
Just surprise
They
her.
literally phoned it in.
Listen, Larry, I don't like to be salacious often, but you know what? When she's like, "Hi, Barack." Oh, Michelle, you're there too. It has that rings like, he's calling me on my private line.
I remember there was a scene when he was president and he was in California, and he introduced her as when she was still Attorney General of California, and he made some sort of. It was actually a bit of a scandal. He had to apologize for it because he talked about how she was the best-looking Attorney General in the country.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you reducing a woman to her appearance and her looks? And there was some sort of little mini rumor there that there was a little thing going on, right?
Well, I'm sure Michelle took it like that. I mean, listen, I will give you Kamala Harris is a good-looking woman, and Barack Obama was talking about her looks there. You know, he got an earful from his wife. But,
well, unless that was all scripted for cameras as well.
Hey, maybe,
never
but.
know.
You know, with these folks, this is all coordinated, and I don't believe it. I don't believe they're genuine at all.
Meanwhile, Kamala is very, 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 very busy. She's running the country, even though she's not really constitutionally running the country. But she gave a big appearance as if she were the head of state after her meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday. And so she's only got a limited amount of time on her schedule. She has not been able to sit down with any major news outlet or even a minor news outlet for a one-on-one interview because she's very, very busy. She's not given a press conference at all about the fact that she's now the nominee and everything that transpired. She hasn't addressed one question about what transpired behind the scenes, what involvement, whether she was asked any questions about Joe Biden or anything like that, whether she encouraged Joe Biden to step down. No questions asked. She hasn't had time for any of that. But she did have time to visit a big Hollywood television show yesterday. That she carved time out for. We'll tell you who she visited in Hollywood and also whether there's going to be a debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump because news about that came down late last night. We'll give you all of that in a moment, but first it's 5:15 WMAL traffic and weather. Every 10 minutes first on the fives with Jamie Whitten in the Hadid carpet cleaning traffic.
WMAL. Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
You betcha. Instead of sitting down with any mainstream media or news outlets here in Washington, instead of giving a press conference, instead of any of that, Kamala Harris made sure, and she couldn't even meet with the Obamas face-to-face. She just took a phone call on the fly, again, all made for TV and scripted. She did have time to sit on a Hollywood set with the cast of RuPaul's Drag Show to encourage people to vote.
We are all in this together, and your vote is your power. So please make sure your voice is heard this November and register to vote at vote.gov.
Can I get an amen?
Amen! Now on with the show.
And remember, you better vote.
There it is. You've got the nexus of RuPaul and Kamala Harris, and where Barack Obama fits in there, and Michelle Obama. You can write your own script on that one.
If your eyes have ever fallen out watching RuPaul's Drag Race because your channel accidentally flipped there, it is as insufferable as you can imagine for many reasons. But her sitting down on this couch with some iconic members of the LGBTQ community. You've got one of the comedians from Saturday Night Live, Leslie, forget her last name, but you've got all these people surrounding her, and I think it's absolutely very much a targeted effort to get at very specific slices of demographics, racial, gender, and now LGBTQ.
Yeah.
And so this is her going to all those different spots, trying to make sure she's galvanizing support from these groups. I guess this is what the new Obama coalition looks like. But that's
they're
why
trying
she did
hard.
It.
They're trying
very hard.
That's Leslie Jones, by the way, has always
Leslie
been the
Jones, thank
center
you.
of much political activism and yes, comedy. Also, doesn't she do NBC Olympics commentary as well?
Oh,
if
really?
I remember? At least she
boy.
has in the past. I'm not sure she'll be a part of the Olympics this time around, starting today. So there you go. She did have time for that. Kamala Harris did, to go out with RuPaul's Drag Show, and definitely it sends a message that she's your LGBTQ candidate. I wonder if she brought her husband with her on that. And then there's a discussion of debates. Kamala Harris announced yesterday that she's ready to debate when, she's just going to replace Joe Biden. So she'll just stand on the same podium that Joe Biden was going to use in the prearranged debates that are already scheduled with Donald Trump. And the Trump campaign put out a statement saying, not so fast. Here's the quote. Given the continued political chaos surrounding crooked Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, general election debate details cannot be finalized with Democrats formally until the Democrats formally decide on their nominee. There's a strong sense by many in the Democrat Party, namely Barack Hussein Obama, that Kamala Harris is a Marxist fraud who cannot beat President Trump, and they're still holding out for some better. Therefore, it would be inappropriate to schedule things with Harris because Democrats very well could still change their mind. That's a statement from Stephen Chung, the Trump campaign communications director. So, and Kamala's team responded saying, what happened to any time, any place? And the answer is, well, that was a challenge issue to Joe Biden. And then we negotiated the details, and this is the fraudulent behavior that they're engaged in here, saying, okay, make all these deals and all these plans for Biden, and now we'll just slip this new person in. No, that's not how things work in the real world. You have changed the terms of the debate, so now we will renegotiate the debate terms.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, this idea that she's ready to debate, we've seen Kamala Harris debate in a presidential debate before. And if you remember, folks, Tulsi Gabbard formerly of Hawaii, representative or senator from Hawaii, Congresswoman from Hawaii, formerly, she eviscerated Kamala Harris. And one of the things she took apart Kamala Harris on is her record as a prosecutor in locking up so many marijuana offenders, many of them who were black men or men of color. And so, I think they think that they're trying to position her as being strong and tough and ready to take President Trump on in a debate. And she may have circles run around her because we have seen time and time again that in those moments she falters. She doesn't rise to the occasion. Well,
we'll see. That was definitely a moment for Democrat voters. And please, if it's not a way in a general election to hurt Kamala Harris to say that she locked people. In fact, she's trying to run on that right now. I'm a prosecutor and I lock criminals up. But no, frankly, I think that Donald Trump should sit back and say, hey, Kamala, will you please explain to everybody, because you promote equity all the time, explain equity to me and tell me how it's different from Marxism. Because this is a great montage that's been put together to tell you, in her own words, where she explains what equity means. And you tell me, after you hear this, how this differs from Marxism.
It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution. Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place.
This whole idea in America that everybody should end up in the same place, that's actually a rather new 20th century Marxist ideal,
Yes,
which
it is.
literally never works. Show me any country that has tried to adopt that. And the
Without
only way
everyone
you can do that is to
misery.
give people things to make up for, as she puts it, not starting out in the same place.
Well, here's the thing. Where you end up is in a miserable place. Equity is absolutely about ensuring that people have the same outcomes, regardless of the amount of effort they put in. That is not fair.
Right.
Nature and God have created all of us to be very different, with unique and different skills, abilities, and capabilities. And where you end up is dependent on how much effort you put in. That's the difference. She's talking out of both sides of her mouth, folks. You can't be saying, "Oh, we fight for equality here, but we're going to fight for equity here." Equality and equity are absolute opposites.
That's
Equality
right.
is saying, you know what? Let's level the playing field, and everybody fight and do as much as you can as possible. We're just going to make sure that everybody has an equal access to opportunity. That is what America is about, not what she's talking about.
Equity is Marxism. It's 524. Yeah, she is ready to walk that runway with all the other drag queens there on RuPaul's Drag Race. She had time for that, no time for any of the media, and now she's put out this statement about Trump saying, yeah, no, we can start negotiating about a debate, but you're not just going to stay. See, she inherits a nomination without doing anything to earn it, without ever getting a vote at all, and now she expects Democrats to fall in line, which apparently they are. But she can't inherit everything. She's not inheriting this debate. He's saying, let's negotiate. In fact, we had agreed to do it on ABC News. Now I've decided I want this debate to be on Fox News. Let's go.
There you go.
So they're going to renegotiate. They'll figure out what the debate's going to be. But her statement was, I think the voters deserve to see the split screen that exists in this race on a debate stage. And so I'm ready. Let's go. They are definitely interested in showing her youth and being a woman of color versus that old white man.
The voters should have seen and heard from her the truth about her boss and his decline in his mental faculties, which is why she was able to step in now and take his spot on the top of the ticket. I think the voters should have seen a lot of things, and she's part and parcel of the cover-up for what happened, because she knew that at the end of the day she was going to be able just to slide into the spot and be potentially Kamala Harris, at the top of the ticket, and potentially the president of the United States. I mean, I'm surprised she's not pushing her boss out of the job right now, unless she doesn't feel like she could both be president and run for president. So it's interesting. I think we'll see her frailties and her strengths come out over the next couple of months, and we'll see if she is at the top of the ticket on November 5th.
Yeah, early polling right now indicates that she hasn't done much to move the needle, although the most important polls over the next several days is going to be those battleground states. But This is very early in the game. And frankly, I think that the Trump campaign is right to say, listen, we don't know what's going to happen at the Democrats' convention. Right now, everyone's pretending, and the media has constructed this narrative that she's the nominee, but you don't know that for sure. So let's just wait until things are official, and then we can discuss the debates. And they're absolutely right to pull away from pre-existing ones. Coming up in a moment, we're going to talk about Vice President Kamala Harris meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu and the Orwellian statement she gave afterwards that deserves some scrutiny, and we shall scrutinize it next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37. It's O'Connor and Company. And oh my God, the Obamas have endorsed Kamala Harris. This really is a game changer. No one saw this coming. Coming up at 6:35, Tommy Pigott talk about some strange goings on in Virginia with regard to illegal electioneering and voter fraud. Well, imagine that in Virginia. 7:05, Derek Anderson running for Congress, Virginia 7. 7:35, Greg Pemberton, he's the D.C. Police Union chair. 8:05, Matt Bonesteel, Washington Post, on the Olympics starting today. And then at 8:35, Brett Baer, Fox News Channel. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka. Patrice, are you a big Olympics fan? Are you going to watch the Olympics? Are you excited?
I love the Olympics because it's Team USA. We actually watched the women's soccer match last night against Zambia. So we're go USA. But I'll be honest, by like week 2, I've dropped out. My interest has waned until the closing ceremony.
That your family is a big soccer family, although you guys you call it football, don't you? When you
football, yes.
I'm sorry. How do you pronounce it?
Football.
Football. Yeah, how'd Zambia do, by the way?
We whooped their tails. Oh,
yeah,
my
exactly.
Goodness.
It wasn't even close. Not cool. All right. So now we had honestly, who's the president right now? All attention was paid on Kamala Harris meeting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. They put out a still photo of the private meeting behind closed doors, and it looked like a summit meeting. Honestly, it's just this bizarre thing where there's Benjamin Netanyahu with his delegation on one side of the big table, and there on the other side of the table is Vice President Harris. They have the vice presidential flag there on the flagpole. She's not president.
No.
Now, if Joe Biden wants to hand over the official duties as head of state to Kamala Harris and abdicate his position as president and resign from office, that's fine. But why is she de facto operating as the head of state and obviously sending some kind of strong-arm message to Netanyahu, like saying, you're going to have to deal with me coming up because I'm going to whoop Trump, so let's get going. You better answer to me. It's just a very weird optics, and I don't understand why more Americans aren't sort of disconcerted and questioning how this White House is operating right now.
Well, obviously, they absolutely want to move Joe Biden off the page so that the focus can be on Kamala Harris and give her a few months of shining in the spot, having that spotlight to present herself as presidential, and so Americans think that she is presidential. If she was presidential, she would have met Benjamin Netanyahu at the airport when he came off when he deplaned. There was no one there to greet him. That would have been an opportunity if she really wanted to position herself as, yes, I'm going to be the one that you might want to deal with. But listen, she's trying to do a lot, and she's trying to position herself and reintroduce herself to the American people and to the world.
Fine, do that. But again, we want to make her look presidential. Then make her president. Go ahead, do it.
I agree.
What's stopping you? But this is just weird. And then she gave this statement where, of course, she gave lip service. This is after snubbing Netanyahu with the joint session speech.
That's right.
Now, instead of sitting there and having to awkwardly appear as though she supports Netanyahu, because that let's be clear, that's the reason she didn't show up at the speech, because there were moments where everyone was applauding, where if she stood and applauded as well, then she would have violated the trust of her radical base of her party that don't want to applaud anything that Benjamin Netanyahu did. So then she gave lip service to the idea that America will allow Israel to defend herself, because she immediately contradicted that with this ridiculous statement.
It is time for this war to end, and end in a way where Israel is secure, all the hostages are released, the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can exercise their right to freedom, dignity, and self-determination.
Now, I'll pause there for a second here. First of all, imagine being Benjamin Netanyahu, who has literally fought and given blood for his nation, and is a former member of the military and a warrior who lost his brother in a battle against these very barbarians that he's fighting against right now. Having to sit there, have you been on the world stage at the highest levels of your country's leadership for decades, and you've got to get lectured to by this woman who has never picked up a firearm in any capacity, let alone to defend her nation, whose major claim to fame is to make sure that babies can be killed in the womb while she was vice president. Now you have to tolerate this woman lecturing you about how best to defend your country and wage war, number one. Number two, it's time for this war to end where Israel is secure and the hostages are relieved. Oh, gee, do you think that hasn't occurred to Netanyahu? The implication here is that Bibi doesn't care. He just wants the war for war's sake. That he doesn't. Of course, he wants the war to end. He's been demanding the release of the hostages since day one. This is infuriating, and it's so completely juvenile the way she's approaching this.
Well, and reportedly, this tone that she took is very different than the tone that she took with him behind closed doors when they met. And apparently, Netanyahu was caught off guard, and his folks were caught off guard by the tone, the more oppositional tone or forceful tone that she took in this public statement, saying, "Yeah, you need to see there needs to be a ceasefire, and the war needs to end, and the hostages need to be released." And I guess their camp is saying that they're not looking at the ceasefire and a hostage release as being the end of the war. Their goal is to eradicate Hamas well beyond the release of hostages. And so for the United States to telegraph for her to telegraph that it all comes to an end now, that's trying to tie the hands of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Right. Their policy is exactly America's policy in Afghanistan and Iraq when we wanted to eradicate al-Qaeda, we wanted to eradicate ISIS, we wanted to eradicate the Taliban.
Yes.
Israel is no different, except for the fact that this terror group is right on their border and just murdered over 1,000 of their citizens. More from Kamala.
There has been hopeful movement in the talks to secure an agreement on this deal. And as I just told Prime Minister Netanyahu, it is time to get this deal done. So to everyone who has been calling for a ceasefire, and to everyone who yearns for peace, I see you and I hear you.
Oh, my God.
Let's get the deal done so we can get a ceasefire to end the war. Let's bring the hostages home, and let's provide much-needed relief to the Palestinian people. And ultimately, I remain committed to a path forward that can lead to a two-state solution. And I know right now it is hard to conceive of that prospect, but a two-state solution is the only path that ensures Israel remains a secure Jewish and democratic state, and one that ensures Palestinians can finally realize the freedom, security, and prosperity that they rightly deserve.
This is pablum, and it's absolutely incoherent, and it's frankly naive. It's as if she hasn't been paying attention to the last several, really the last couple of decades in that region.
But who is she directing this to? I mean, she needs to train her ire at Hamas and ire at the terrorists, because Israel has tried in many ways to allow for a two-state solution. So,
really what she should do is bring the cast of RuPaul's Drag Show over there to Hamas and sit down with the Hamas
see what
people.
happens, right?
Right, yeah, let's see how that works out
Better
for her.
work.
By the way, she could bring the cast of RuPaul's Drag Show to go and meet with Israeli officials because they're a free and open and democratic society, but not the one she's championing.
Weekdays 9 to noon, The Chris Plant Show.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
There's also another bizarre story, which I just find fascinating, although I don't know what to make of it, but let's just talk about it. There's been a question ever since Joe Biden's appearance on the portico on the South Lawn there after his Oval Office address, abdicating his role as nominee for president in the next re-election, where he comes out and addresses the staff of the White House, and he looks giant. He looks super duper tall, especially compared to Jill Biden. And I wrote this off first as just being a low camera angle that sort of exaggerates the people who are close to you versus, if you're doing a different camera angle. That happens sometimes. It makes people look taller. And this is in juxtaposition to standing next to Jill Biden. He looks like she comes up to, his neck, where normally she comes up to, above his ear. It is like, it's just a camera angle thing. But then yesterday, as he met with Benjamin Netanyahu, who, by the way, this tells you how great the Kamala meeting went. Bibi's people said that the meeting with Biden was much more constructive.
Yeah,
I'm guessing they talked about, coloring books and, oatmeal. that was more constructive. Anyway, Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu are both listed as 6 foot tall. In fact, officially, Joe Biden is 5 foot 11 and a half inches, but let's round it up to 6 feet. And there are pictures of Joe Biden and Bibi Netanyahu meeting over the years, and they look like they're the same height. They're 6 foot tall. Well, there's a picture of the two of them in the Oval Office. Maybe it's a warped lens that was being used, but he looks a solid 4.5 inches taller than Bibi Netanyahu.
Wow.
Maybe 5. Look at it. I mean, look at the picture, and we'll tweet it out.
It something looks suspect. There are also some comparisons of President Biden with Jill Biden. So in the past, Jill has come up to maybe about his the top of her head meets his eyes, right?
Yeah.
But now new pictures show the top of her head meeting his chin, meaning that, I mean, unless they're walking on uneven paths or President Biden is wearing some really clunky platform shoes.
Stilts
I mean,
of some kind.
I can't explain it.
Or, well, all right, there's two explanations here.
Okay.
There's three explanations. The first, again, is that these are just sort of,
Weird
there are
angles.
different kind of camera lenses you can use that sort of screw with the perspective, especially if you're in a small room. You're in the Oval Office, you need to take pictures, and so you use a different lens that is more of a wide angle, and that's going to distort things based on how close they are to the lens or not.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, I guess he could have grown. Usually when men get older, they tend to shrink. And maybe he's on some sort of, rejuvenative experimental drug that
to help his bones?
Keeps him alive, but also makes him grow. I'm speculating. The third is that he's a body double. That this isn't really Joe Biden. That this is.
Well, listen, because people have been saying Joe Biden's face looks like Barney lately. If you remember the purple dinosaur, this weird plasticky, weird look on his face. I've seen the meme, and I got to tell you, the facial structure looks very, very similar to Barney's. I don't know.
Again,
this is speculation.
It is the weirdest thing. And here's the problem. If this White House wasn't known for lying and hiding facts and their lack of transparency, this sort of thing wouldn't catch fire. This is what you get for lying to us for years about Biden's health. You get this kind
comparison.
of thing. Clearly, he is Barney the dinosaur. And again, I just want to point out, I didn't take any of this. I still don't take it too seriously. I think it's the camera angle, and I think it's the lenses being used, and the video of him. The live video of him and how tall he looks compared to Jill. I think that is a optical illusion based on where the person is, what lens she's using to take the video. But these pictures of him with Netanyahu are remarkable because they're standing right next to each other. And
they're apparently both the same height.
And they're supposed to be the same height. So, listen, you take a look at it on our social media and you can decide. It is curious. You know what? I think I'm going with body double at this point. I think that the best they could do
body double
was you've seen the movie Dave. You know how this works. You get the doppelganger and a little taller, but maybe that's Kevin Kline. Have we seen Kevin Kline recently?
So then, where is the real Joe Biden? What is he doing?
Oh, he's on life support.
No.
It's 5:53.